Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Sibal Dasti. I am a manager with the international recruitment team in Uni, which is a sister company of Global University System. And today I'm very excited to talk about one of our premium university partner, Canterbury Christ Church University in beautiful Kent. We will be discussing actually English literature, modern history, medieval and early modern studies, at the postgraduate level. And I am happy to introduce you Dr. Andrew Palmer, Course Director of MA English Literature, Dr. John Boulaitis, Course Director, MA Modern History and Early Medieval History, Miss Peggy Riley. And before we start, actually, some quick housekeeping rules. You are all in mute. For any question, please use the Q&A box rather than the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. So the floor is yours, Andrew.
Okay, so hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Before I talk about the MA in English Literature, I'm just going to share my screen and say a little bit about Canterbury as a place to live and study. And so this goes for all of the courses we're talking about. So bear with me while I share the screen. Hopefully you can all see that. It's a picture of Canterbury Cathedral. Peggy, just give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Yeah, excellent. So yeah, here are just a few images to give you a sense of the place that that students will be studying in if they come to join us. This is Canterbury Cathedral. It's part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a stunning edifice, and here are a couple of other shots. You've got the cloister there on the right, which I particularly love, and also very nearby and right next to the university is St. Augustine's Abbey, which is one of the oldest, I think the oldest abbey Christian institution in the United Kingdom, certainly in England. And in fact, if you can see in the background, there's a modern building, that's us. But there's the abbey. And Canterbury itself is a beautiful medieval town. Here's one of the main streets. It has a wonderful theatre, the Marlow Theatre, where all kinds of performances take place. That's the outside and the inside. And also beautiful public gardens in the town. That's Westgate Gardens. And pretty nearby, we also have some wonderful coastlines to visit. On the left, that's Whitstable Beach, and you can just see a very nice pub, the Old Neptune, poking out at the back there. And on the right, I actually can't remember which beach this is. I've forgotten where I was, but it's somewhere near Dover. It's as in the famous White Cliffs of Dover. There it is. So that's the place that students would be coming to if they came to join us. And if you want to ask us anything at all about what it's like to live in England and in Kent, and particularly in Canterbury, then please put your questions in the Q&A box. So okay, I will move on to the MA English Literature. I'm the course director for this program. And let me begin by saying a bit about the team that teaches the program. I don't know about you, but Professor Carolyn Alton's face is obscured by the little box that we're in, but you can move that around, I think. So you could move that aside. So here we are. We've got Claire Bartram, who specializes in early modern literature, Susan Savale, whose main focus is Romanticism, Professor Carolyn Alton, who is our Victorian specialist, and then the rest of the team, Astrid Stilmer, particularly is concerned with early modern drama, Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, and so on. Dr. Dave Budgeon focuses on contemporary literature with a particular interest in children's literature and American literature. And then on the end there is me, reading George Orwell, if you look very closely. And my focus is on modern literature. Particularly, I've published in First World War literature. And so this is one of the key things, one of the key points I want to make is that students who come and join us on this MA are being taught by academics who research and publish in the field. So we're at the cutting edge. Our teaching arises out of our research. And so here are 4 of our recent publications. Susan Savali's book on romantic women, memoirs there. The book I co-wrote with Sally Minogue about First World War literature. Carolyn Alton's wonderful book about seaside reading, and Claire Bartram's book on Kentish book culture. So those are just some examples of the kind of publications out of which our teaching grows. Now, let me give you a quick rundown of the modules that are on offer on the MA English Literature here at Canterbury Christ Church. So we work in trimesters. To you or me, that's what I would call a term, but anyway, we call them trimesters. And in the first trimester, there are 3 modules. And I think particularly for international students, it's great that we have a module called Research and Scholarship, which is for all students to bring them kind of up to speed, up to master's level in terms of research skills. There are 4 short assignments on that module to give you a sense of the content. The first one, we ask students to write an annotated bibliography for a research project. Then they have to do what's called a scholarly writing exercise, where we give them an essay that's got lots of mistakes in it, and they have to correct it and give it a mark, which is kind of fun. And then there's a short presentation and a research proposal. The largest piece for that module is a research proposal, where we get students thinking about their final dissertation early on. In the process of showing students how to do all those things, all of that learning, all of that work supports all of their work in all of the other modules. And I think particularly international students, but also mature students coming back to study after a break, find that a really reassuring module that just gets them tuned in to what's expected on them, on the masters. And then in that first trimester, there are also 2 subject modules: Case Studies in Early Modern Literature, which is taught by Dr. Astrid Stilmer. And so the idea is that the case study will differ from year to year, but I can tell you that next year the case study will be the works of Christopher Marlowe, the contemporary Shakespeare. Someone's talking. Is that a question? Or has someone just got their mic on? It's gone. Okay, I'll continue. So Christopher Marlowe. And then the other one is Classic Children's Literature, taught by Dave Budgeon, where some of the texts are Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's classic text, and Wind in the Willows, and that kind of thing. I'll show you in a moment, I'll show you in a bit more detail what one particular module looks like, but let me just continue with my brief overview. Okay, so someone's got their mic on. Can you mute yourself, please?
Andrew, I'm going to ask, I think it's Anand that has his mic on. I am very sorry about that.
Okay, thanks. And here we are in trimester 2. There's 3 modules: 19th century crime fiction, literature memory in the First World War, which is my module, so I'll say a bit about that in a moment, and literature of the fin de siècle, the end of the 19th century, another Victorian literature module led by Carolyn Alton. And just to give you a quick sense of what a module is, each module has its own website, a Blackboard, and I'm going to share a screen just to show you what that looks like. Here it comes, I think. No, I'm going to stop sharing and share again, sorry. Hold on. Here it comes. I can't see Blackboard, can you?
No.
Okay, I'm going to skip that part because we'll run out of time. But anyway, I can describe it to you. each module, and this goes for all the MA courses that we're talking about today, each module has its own what's called a Blackboard, or a website where the whole thing is beautifully set out with all kinds of exciting resources and so on. But for now, you'll have to imagine that. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Here we go. And the final module that I haven't mentioned yet is the dissertation. This is it's of equivalent weight to all of the other modules. They're all what we call 20 credit modules. And here's a bit of text to tell you about the dissertation. In this extended piece of independent research, students write 15,000 words on an individually devised topic. So this is where students really get to do something individual and of particular interest to them. In the course of this project, they'll develop deep knowledge of a specialized topic, engage in advanced scholarship, and this is where they consolidate and refine all the skills they've learned through all the other modules in research, organization, argument, writing, and presentation. So that's a slightly formal description of what the dissertation entails. And it's the part of the program, I think, which students get most emotionally attached to because it's such a personal project. And while we're here, let me just say a quick word or two about the undergraduate degree that we offer in case recruitment is going on with younger folks in mind. The course director is my colleague Astrid Stilmer. In fact, what I'm about to say in terms of student support also applies to the MA. We're particularly proud of the level of student support that we offer. Every student gets a personal academic tutor who they can see to discuss any queries, any difficulties that they're having in their studies. In our undergraduate courses, we offer peer mentors where other students who are in their second and third year offer support to first year students. And then in the university as a whole, there's a learning development team where students can go to discuss their essay writing skills and their research skills. And also for all of the difficulties that we face in life, whether it's health problems or bereavement problems or accommodation problems or whatever it is, we also have an excellent well-being team and a disability team. And just to underline the sort of support we offer, here's a statement from a recent graduate who said in a survey, "The greatest accolade I can give is the consistent level of support and pastoral care alongside academic support. I was made to feel that no office door was closed to me if I needed guidance. I appreciate the department acknowledges that life isn't simple. They do not discriminate against situations that arise with their students' lives and are willing and eager to make those difficulties easier to deal with." So that's our whole ethos. We're here to support students through whatever challenges they face, whether academic or in life, and to get them through the course. To fulfill their potential. And then I don't want to take up more than my share of the session, so I will just show on screen without running through them some of the modules that we offer or that we currently offer. These are always subject to change, of course, but this is what we currently offer in year one. I'll just give you a moment to glance over those to get a sense of what happens. And then in year two, everybody does a module called Literature Matters, which I happen to teach, where the title of the module tells you what we do. We talk about what this thing literature is, and how we value it and why, and what literary criticism can achieve, and so on. Really wonderful module that I enjoy teaching. And then various subject modules, as you can see on the screen. And then finally in year three, undergraduates also do a dissertation, much shorter than the MA dissertation, 4,000 words, and then they choose from a range of options there. As you can see, some of them are period courses, some of them are thematic, giving a sort of interesting range of opportunities. So that's the end of my slides. I will pass over to Peggy in a moment, but if you have any questions, I look forward to engaging with those later on in the session. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Peggy, it's your turn.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Peggy Riley. I'm a writer and playwright, and I'm one of the lecturers for our creative and professional writing on the BA and for their MA, creative and critical writing. So let's talk about both courses. You will find us a very friendly university and a very friendly course. Here's just some pictures of recent modules that I've taught and events that I've helped to organize. So we have a digital literature course. So that's a session we're doing on VR. And then on the top right, you'll see those are some of our first years working on writing first plays together. You'll find that there's lots of different ways to engage with your learning and lots of different ways to experience new things and new ways of working. Your lecturers and tutors are all active researchers, as am I, and we're practicing our craft in real time alongside our students. We also teach our research and teach our practice, our research, our writing, our creative practices, and our teaching are all united in a really lovely way. All of your lecturers and tutors are published. We are creative writers, playwrights, essayists, poets, and academic writers. But we want our students to be published as well. We have a student-run writing magazine here, Readable, which offers opportunities to both BA and MA students to write in response to prompts. Sometimes we have themes and competitions, but it's a great first step into the world of being published. And we create anthologies for graduates, both at the BA and the MA level. So it's work that you can share once you graduate. It's a way of providing evidence of the kind of work that you've done at university. And it's a credit for that, that all-important CV and biography that you're working towards creating for yourself as a writer. There are lots of ways to get involved. There are creative writing societies and clubs, lots of open mic events, and lots of ways to get involved as a writer and to get your writing out into the world, both on campus and in Canterbury, and then in the wider world in East Kent. I'm broadcasting from Whitstable, and you saw a picture earlier from Andrew's slides. So I'm 6 miles away from Canterbury, and we have a thriving open mic culture here, as does Margate, as does Folkestone. So you'll find there's a real diverse and broad range of opportunities for you to get out and see things, and also to get your work out into the world. We bring professionals on campus regularly to talk about, as you'll see here, roles in publishing. We have guest speakers who come and give readings and public lectures, and we have performances and readings by published and esteemed authors. I'm going to tell you a bit about the BA, Creative and Professional Writing, before we move on to the MA. You'll see our modules of study here, 3 years of study to do a BA degree. So at level 4, an introduction to different elements of craft, fiction, drama, and poetry. I teach the drama in particular. Text and context, which will give everybody a good background in styles and forms, literary trends. Professional Writer's Toolkit, beginning to get to grips with the kind of writing that you would do to support your creative writing, and Writing for Well-Being, which I teach. It's my practice and my research as well. How does our writing affect our well-being, and how does our well-being affect our writing? At level 5, beginning to work more experimentally, working outside, a sense of place, experimenting with writing and form, digital fiction and gaming narratives, which I teach, different ways of writing and reading and engaging with digital forms, from Twine to writing immersive tech through VR, and understanding the link between games, RPGs, and fiction. Writing for stage and screen, which I also teach, taking your beginning drama into a digital world and thinking about how your work can translate to radio, film, TV. Magazine writing and publishing, and applied humanities, which gives you the opportunity to have a work placement and consider the kind of work you might do post-graduation. In your third year, you work towards starting a novel and creating the kind of publicity pack that you need to submit it. Working as a writer, considering again options for life after a study. Writing genre for the, I think that says marketplace underneath. It's obscured by our faces. Learning the art and practice of self-publishing, and an individual study project, which is like the dissertation that Andrew mentioned as well. 6,000 words or 30 pages of a drama piece that you create over a year, plus a critical reflection. The MA Creative and Critical Writing is our new MA for at the master's level, and we're very excited about the modules of study here. Here's an example of the things that you study at the MA level. The contemporary writing, the Anthropocene, which I teach. It's a survey of contemporary fiction, so meaning within the last 10 years, and then understanding how contemporary fiction tentacles backwards through styles and trends, and also trying to anticipate where it might tentacle forward as we're writing through global challenges and changes. Inside and Out Writing Place, which is the practice of the course director's work, in particular, Dr. Sonia Overall. Research for Writers, learning the methods, practice, and application of how we work to research as creative writers and as critical writers. Story Shape and Structure, the craft of writing, which is advanced story craft and structure. I teach that. I'm obsessed with narrative structure, and it's my goal to make you obsessed by that too. Writers on Writing, creative and critical approaches to writing. How do writers write about their writing, and how do we write about our own writing as we're writing? A supervised project, which is the anthology. You'll see a picture there. Again, you leave with your first publishing credit, and it's work that you can share with agents and the wider world. And then the final project, independent study, which is a dissertation module, 15,000 words as well, to echo our sister course there with English literature, and some feedback there. Glad to hear that we are highly recommended. Here's some testimonials. I'll just give you a second to have a look at them, but you can see the broad experiences that our former students have had, from finding an agent and signing a book deal, to becoming an event producer, to beginning to work in libraries as journalists, as independent publishers, and also the kind of steps that writers have taken moving from graduation to beginning to be published. Further study, our BA feeds into our MA Creative and Critical Writing Talk course, but we also have an in-depth study for independent research, and wider courses in writing, journalism, publishing, teaching, and marketing. Those are some of the areas that our graduates move into. And once you finish the MA Creative and Critical Writing, you can apply for these further degrees. And no questions until later. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peggy. John, the floor is yours for the third program.
Thank you very much. Can I just check that I'm coming over loud and clear? Thank
Perfect.
you. good. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Hello, my name is John Bulaitis. I'm a lecturer in modern history at Canterbury Christ Church University. I'm going to share some slides. So I'm going to introduce you to the opportunities to study history at Canterbury Christ Church University. I'm going to focus on our 2 master's degrees, the MA in modern history and the MA in medieval and early modern studies. And I'll just say a few words at the end about our undergraduate program as well. But I want to begin with a point, well, 4 points, 4 very brief points about what history means to us at Christ Church University, why we believe studying history is so important. And it's particularly important in today's increasingly dangerous world. There's 4 points. History is an essential part of the human condition. History is what makes us human. I mean, we all speak different languages. We are all possess different cultures, different traditions. We practice different religions. And all these things have been shaped and passed down through history. But, and this is the second point, there's a big contradiction about history, because on one hand, we as humans have been shaped by history, but on the other hand, it is human beings, men and women, who make decisions, who take choices which shape history. And that is true whether on the micro level, in the way ordinary people, you and I, lead our daily lives, or on the macro level, on the big stage of politics. Politicians, diplomats, intellectuals, people of influence make choices and decisions that shape how the history books will be written in future. And the importance, we believe, of studying history is the more we are able to understand the reality of the past, the more we can understand today's world and its complex and changing political, cultural, and societal relationships. And in doing so, we can make a better world for the future and for future generations. So the study of history is an argument with the past, an historical period, an event, a personality can and should be understood in many, many different ways. History is not just a story about the powerful, the people at the top, of white Europeans and Americans. We are equally interested in the voices and the stories of the exploited, the marginalized, the victims. The image on the screen there are people looking at a landscape, and they are standing in different positions, different vantage points. Well, that's a bit like doing history, because each of us looks at the past in different ways. A man looks at it differently than a woman. A young person looks at it differently from an older person. A European looks at it differently from someone from India or Pakistan. Each of us is different, with different backgrounds and cultures, and therefore has different questions about the past and will interpret it in different ways. So history teaches us to respect, to recognize different viewpoints, different cultures, and different understandings of our world. So that's how we see history. Some big ideas perhaps there. Now, in terms of our MA, this is the structure of our 2 MAs, an MA in modern history and an MA in medieval and early modern history. Both of them are taught together, but they are within them, they sort of branch off at certain points. So you specialize in either modern history or earlier history. And the MA will help you, would hopefully train you in tools and methods to study the past. as with the literature MAs, you will be taught by professionals who practice their discipline on a daily basis, and you will have a personal tutor who will help build you a personalized program. There are 3 trimesters which are there on the screen. The course begins and ends of September, and the first trimester wraps up in the middle of December, and you take 3 modules. The same in the second trimester, which begins at the end of January. So there's a sort of 6-week break there, and that finishes in April. And in the third trimester, you focus on your dissertation. In history, the classes are on Tuesday and Wednesday in trimester 1, and just Tuesday in trimester 2 and 3. The content, these are what you would be attending, what the modules, the classes you'll be attending in the first trimester. They are all designed to link together. The first module, Themes and Sources, introduces you to approaches for historical study at a postgraduate level. The second module, Communicating the Past, there's a lot of practical aspects to this module, because you will learn how to produce history for radio, podcasts, social media, and how to communicate history in a way that is informative and entertaining, but also engaging from a professional point of view. And then there's 2 other modules. The modern history students take a module on activism, propaganda, and popular culture, which looks at the way looks at popular culture in literature, film, music, but also deconstructs it and looks at how it includes or excludes certain groups. And for the earlier period, we have a module about materials which have passed on through time, whether they be ceramics, carved wood, metal, piece of bone, and so on, and investigate how these can help us to understand history. In the second semester, I won't run through all of these, but it's a similar sort of pattern. But in the second semester, you begin your work on your dissertation, and you take what we call a supervised project, which is a placement with a partner institution or within the university, or a research project with a supervisor. And these are the projects that our students are doing this year, or some of them, which gives you an idea of the broad range of history that you can study. We have a student collecting and analysing articles in British newspapers about the partition of the Punjab in 1947. So to look at that major historical event, but how did the British see it? We have another student who producing a brochure about Roman Canterbury. Canterbury is an important Roman site, and his brochure is going to be aimed at people from the Indian subcontinent who are coming to visit Canterbury and explaining the Roman history of Canterbury. We have a student who's organising support for the Earth Charter Conference, which is a major international event in April, which is part of an international movement for a just, sustainable and peaceful global society. We have a student doing a project on Allama Iqbal's concept of self-esteem, a project about artificial intelligence, a project about a student producing a podcast, bringing to life stories in the archives about pupils who attended a local school for the deaf in the 19th century. So I think you can see the range of possibilities and opportunities to discuss, to study something of your interest. We have very varied forms of assessment, class presentations, producing podcasts for broadcast, display posters of your ideas, portfolios, proposals for research, analysis of sources, and other interdisciplinary projects. So a wide range of assessment. We have field trips to local archives. Actually, on the previous slide, you could see a picture of students who had a field trip to a Roman fort, a major Roman fort very near Canterbury. And finally, we have the dissertation, which is a piece of research and analysis with the support of an academic supervisor. It's an extended piece of writing. It is the major piece of writing that you would do on the MA, again, it's an opportunity to put together the various skills and methods that you have refined during the course of the MA. We give support for academic writing to help train you in the methods of academic writing so you can actually achieve this extended piece of writing. And again, some of the topics from this year, a student doing a dissertation on partition to partnership, a historical analysis of Pakistan-British diplomatic relations, a student doing identity, ideology and social class in the process of Pakistani independence, a student doing a dissertation on Oppenheimer, scientists against the bomb, and I won't read all the others, but you can see them there. A student doing about the significance of Canterbury at the time of William the Conqueror, the ecclesiastical significance, and a student doing the Muslim perspective of the Crusades. My final point then is about the undergraduate course, which is a 3-year course, a very varied course which introduces you to a range of history. The content includes the Romans, the Cold War, the Black Freedom Movement in America, the Crusades of Europeans in Palestine, American popular culture, and so on. It's a very friendly and collaborative environment on our BA. It has practical modules as well, which apply the skills, working with museums, archives, community organizations. It has field trips and visits, and also an opportunity to take modules in archaeology and literature, and with support from a personal tutor as well. So thank you for listening. And if you do want further information, that's my email address on the screen. Feel free to contact me and I can give you further information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. That was actually a very insightful presentation overall. Before we move on to the question, I would like to just do a quick reminder on the English pre-sessional session. So we, as partner, as in uni, are very proud of Canterbury Christ Church University as they are #1 for graduate in works in 2023. Canterbury Christ Church University has also a silver ranking in teaching, which is excellent. Regarding the pre-sessional courses to develop your academic skills, we have actually courses starting before the September intake. If your English is not at level, there is the option to do a 6-week course or a 10-week course. And the entry requirement depends again on your level. 6 weeks, you will need an overall 5.5. 10 weeks, an overall 5.0, with no bands under 5.0 or 4.5 in all elements. And now it's time for your questions. So we have a first question, which is, actually John replied to it for his presentation, but do the students have field trips in your respective program, Peggy and Andrew? Andrew, would you like to go first?
So hi, we as a kind of department of English literature has various field trips throughout the year. They're not particularly part of the MA and they're not part of assessment, and they change from year to year. But for example, this year there was an outing, a trip to Penshurst Place, which is a sort of country house where the poet Ben Jonson wrote a famous poem of the same name. So that kind of thing happens. And of course, we're in Canterbury, which is the city of Chaucer and Marlowe. and Afra Ben. So it's a very literary city, and you know, so that there are events around the city that we take part in as well. But yeah, that's it for us. But over to you, Peggy.
Again, we tend to feature more field trips at the undergraduate level. So I take students to Marlowe Theatre, which you kindly showed a photo of, because it's hard to write a play if you don't see them on stage, if you don't see how they look. We take students who are working on thinking about working in publishing to the London Book Fair to see kind of large scale festivals of literature and how books are produced and all the kinds of work that feed into working in publishing. We also take a variety of creative writing field trips to locations such as Whitstable or Margate, so days out together to write, responding to the environment and to prompts. At the MA level, we keep them very busy, but we tend to spend time at the MA level together, going out for drinks after a session, going to all the events that are happening in the city and on campus, literature events, going to book signings, and just spending time together. So.
One of the common questions that we are getting a lot from students is what is actually the workload? How many hours they're going to have face-to-face education, how many hours they will need to put in. And I know writing and history is a little bit more flexible than other studies, but can we have a quick indication?
Yeah, I'll go first. So on the MA in English Literature, at any given moment, you'll be studying 3 modules, and each module has a 2-hour seminar each week. And on our program, we try and have everything on Mondays and Tuesdays, so to limit the amount of traveling backwards and forwards that students have to do. It will be on sometimes even one day, but mostly 2 days a week. So yeah, you'll come in and do a seminar in the morning and another one in the afternoon, that kind of thing. And then our subject is a very reading heavy subject. So there's a lot of student-directed learning, self-directed learning, filling up the rest of the week. But of course, you can do that anywhere, wherever you're living. So that's what.
Can you say a couple of words about the library, because I know that Canterbury Christ Church University has an extensive and award-winning library.
So yeah, we've got a lovely library building called Augustine House, which is about a sort of 8-minute walk away from the main campus. And so it has, you know, a good collection of physical books, but also the library has an astonishing array of digital material that, you know, part of what you pay for to come to the university is access to digital databases of just thousands of academic journals in all kinds of disciplines. And I find sometimes I go and get an actual book, but most of our research is now in the digital world. So that's the library. Yeah.
Perfect. Peggy, John?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. I'm going to share my screen again because I've got on my first slide, I had a photograph of the library, which Andrew has just referred to. But actually, I'm having trouble again sharing my screen. I'll talk over. Like English literature, you will attend 6 hours a week. In the first trimester, 4 of those hours are on Tuesday, 2 of them are on Wednesday. In the second trimester, everything happens on Tuesday. I would estimate that you need to attend classes for a day and do an extra day of really serious, hard study yourself, and you will pass the MA. If you want to really excel at the MA, you probably have to do a bit more than that. But I would imagine that is, if you think you're doing free modules. Most of our modules have 2 assessments attached to them. Now, one of those might be a class presentation. One of them might be a relatively straightforward task. One of them might be a more extended piece of writing. The amount of writing attached to a module is 4,000 words equivalent. If you see what that now 2,000 words is equivalent is a 7 or 8 minute presentation, or a podcast of 15 minutes might be 2,000 words equivalent. But that's what I think if a student attends the classes and puts a really solid day a week on top of that, you will be fine. But to really excel, we would encourage you to do more. We give you, personal academic support. You will have a personal academic tutor who will help guide you through, so you can work out exactly how much time you need to, to put in to ensure that you pass the assessments.
Excellent. Peggy?
There we go, just finding my button. At the BA level, you'll be in 3 half days a week for the first 2 years. In the 3rd year, the bulk of your time is spent in independent writing, independent reading, and having supervisions with your supervisor, having tutorials with your supervisor. At the MA level, our MA classes are taught in twilight times. Most of our MA students are working, so you will be in for our MA on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 7 p.m. and on 3 Saturdays per trimester, so that you have time, immersive creative time to work together with other students and to work with your module tutors. And then during the summer, when you're working on your dissertation, that's an extended writing project where we're asking you to turn in the first 15,000 words of a novel or several short stories. So again, the time that you're spending throughout the year is investing in your craft, reading, connecting the theory and craft that you're reading to your own writing, discovering your voice, discovering your style. I would suggest that with the reading and with the writing that we asked you to do, that would be easily another day of time. So, but I think the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So
Absolutely. And another question, do your students, especially for the postgraduate degrees, need to have any academic prior the MA in that field? Meaning, what is the profile of the student that will join?
Yeah, I'll go
the
first.
MA?
So most of the people who do an MA in English literature have a first degree, either in English literature or a degree where there was a significant portion of English literary study in their first degree, but it's not a requirement. And we do sometimes have, at the moment, we've got a student whose first degree was in business studies. And, it's an extra challenge for those students because they have to learn the ways of the discipline, from a standing start. But if someone's willing to put that extra work in and to find their way into the discipline, if they've got a first degree in another subject, they have to have a degree of some kind. Then we can look at their application. Yeah.
Shall I? I think for history, obviously a degree which has some aspect of study in the past is helpful. I don't think you need to have a history first degree to study at postgraduate level in history. I think study in other social sciences, political science, even things like geography and so on. I'll be fit very, very well with history. If you're coming from a background where you haven't studied history before, you should signal that, and we would give you a crash course in some of the sort of quirks of the history discipline. But I went to postgraduate study in history without being a historian at undergraduate level, and I think history is the sort of discipline that is quite easy to move into and move out to if you're prepared to learn the particular skills and methods that we use.
Perfect.
With our creative and critical writing MA, it's quite different. We do have a lot of progression from our BA and from other people's BAs, either English literature or creative writing into our MA. But I would say easily more than half do not come from an academic creative writing background, but they are students of other forms. There are people that have been working in employment for perhaps decades and in other careers. We have lawyers, we have people that work in a variety of public health and oh, I can't think of the words. Anyway, really, what's most important is the desire to write and some ability to begin to explore with your voice and using different forms. So we ask for a writing sample to come in just so that we can kind of gauge where you are. There's not an entry requirement per se for that, but it's our ability to track where your writing is, at what level you'd be coming in at. A lot of people have written through their whole lives but never studied it, and this is just the opportunity to really invest in that desire and to take your writing more seriously. So we're here to support that.
I think something quite interesting in writing and history is that the technology now that makes it even different. You mentioned VR education. There is like more interaction, like open mics, etc. So my next question would be, how exposed is Canterbury to the general scene of literature festivals, open mic? You mentioned it briefly during the presentation, but I heard, a birdie told me that actually the region was quite rich in this kind of, literature and art events. Would you like to develop it a little bit more?
Yes, it is. We have Canterbury Festival is a big arts festival with literature, arts, lectures, all different kinds of performance styles, because your creative writing and your writing in general can be stimulated by all different forms of media and art. Canterbury Christ Church is one of the sponsors of the Faversham Literary Festival, which is a 2-week major festival. Writers come from all over Britain and outside Britain to speak about their work and to run workshops. Most of our lecturers are involved in that festival, either teaching, running workshops, introducing, and our students are given the opportunity to volunteer or have work placements, and some have gone on to be employed by the festival to work in literary festival management, which is a really good next step of thinking about how to work. There are major art festivals in Margate and Folkestone, both of which are less than an hour away from Canterbury. And then London itself is only 50 some odd miles away. It's a fast train from Canterbury to get to London. And, the whole world is happening in London in terms of literary events. I'm up most weeks at a book launch or a book reading to celebrate the publication of something. There's loads going on. You'd be spoiled for choice here.
Very good, excellent. Andrew, would you like to add something?
Well, no, Peggy just said everything I was going to say, but also we have great cinemas. There's some, there are some pubs where there's some great music happening. So it's just a vibrant, culturally interesting corner of the world. It's a great place to live and work.
And I think we lost John. John, would you like to add something?
Yeah, from a historical perspective, I mean, Canterbury is part of the county of Kent. And Kent was the county, the first county that the Romans invaded 2,000 years ago. Kent was a county that the Vikings invaded 1,000 or so years ago. Kent was the county also that William the Conqueror invaded England in 1066, which in English history is a key date, which was when the Normans, who are part of France, took over England. All this began in Kent. So there's really major historical sites that you can see. Archaeology is very strong around Canterbury, and we have links with archaeologists, and more up to date in the two what we call the World Wars, the 1914 to 1918 and 1939 to 1944. Kent was on the front line because soldiers went over to the front, the Western Front, in the First World War, from Kent, and in the Second World War, Kent was on the front line of what was known as the Battle of Britain, which was an attempt by the Germans under Adolf Hitler to soften up Britain before a invasion. So there's all of that going on, and if you're interested in any of that, there's plenty of things we would point you in the direction of.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think another thing that I would like to highlight to all students that are participating or agent, you can apply for September 2024. Currently, there is a scholarship for international students of £1,500 that will be applied automatically. But to close up and at last, I would like to also underline the career opportunities that studying literature and history will offer you. So it's not only academic, you can be a writer. There's, I saw in the presentation, marketing, publication, editorial. So to close up, can you give us some idea of what students can expect after they graduate? What kind of company or what kind of job they can look for?
Okay, go on, Peggy. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, on the testimonial page, we had some examples of our BA students have gone on to do a variety of work. Some go on to further study, but those who go into work have become event managers. Some move into content writing and business writing. And we have a student who's a business writing manager now who begins to hire our students as they're graduating because he's aware of the training that they have. A lot of our BA students go into teaching, and they want to teach creative writing as part of their part of what they have there. Working in libraries, working in marketing, and first steps for working with publishing houses. So often first steps are marketing or working in publicity.
Excellent. Andrew? You're muted.
Yeah. Quite a lot of our students are interested in, some of them are already English teachers who are using the MA to as career development, professional development, and some of them go on to become English teachers around the world, but also graduates of English literature will go into any kind of work that involves working with words, understanding how to research, how to develop an argument, how to set that out efficiently and cogently in a document. So all of those skills are skills that one learns in the study of English literature. And then the other thing that people with an MA in English literature do is they go on to further study. So some of our MA students will go on to do a PhD in the subject. That's about it.
John, last word?
Yes, last word. Well, in the Western culture, an MA in history is a very valued qualification to have, because it recognizes you've got a range of transferable skills and analytical skills, and it is valued by employers. And only 5% of history students go into education and become teachers, which means 95% are going elsewhere. A number of our students are working already with artificial intelligence. For example, artificial intelligence is not just about technology and science. We need the human angle as well to deal with ethical issues, what sort of questions to ask the computers and so on. And you find it's history students, humanities students who are best qualified to participate in that side of things. But history students go into marketing, insurance, business, public relations, law, heritage as well. There's a lot of our students end up in working in museums and that sort of thing, but that's probably a minority. Most go into government, public services is another angle. It's basically, I think, a step up to show that you are able to think analytically and think critically, and above all, have a wide view of the world and tasks, rather than a narrow view and narrow skills. Because to achieve an MA in history is a challenge. It is a challenge, and it requires, a certain outlook, which I think is valued in today's world.
Perfect. Thank you very much. This was really, for me personally, a very insightful presentation. Thank you, each one of you, for the input. So for the rest of the participants, please don't hesitate to reach out to your local manager, PD, counselor, to get some more information. As mentioned, it's a fantastic program. It will open doors, not only academically, but I believe personally that even in social media, currently they need thousands of editors in technology, in AI, in plenty of fields. So don't hesitate. We look forward to welcoming you in September. Andrew, Peggy, John, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all the inputs. Bye. Bye-bye.